Hollis Joe McCullum. Sorry for the sudden stop in the music. I'm still trying to figure out all of this, but anyway, that's fine then. That's the intro music, everyone. Again, this is Hollis Joe McCullum, author of To Save a World, and this is my podcast, I Do What I Want. If you haven't read my book, To Save a World, yet, it is a fantasy adventure novel based in the fantastical world of Rashawn, and we've got these characters that are just trying to figure life out, and they end up having to deal with a prophecy and saving the world and this whole thing. Anyway, let's get into it. Last 2 weeks ago, Easter Sunday, we did our first episode, pilot episode. Yay! Is it called a pilot? If it's podcast? I have no idea. I'm not used to this medium. Anyway, I'm a writer. But I was lucky enough to be able to do the show with my best friend Ashley, who she and I, there wouldn't be a book. There wouldn't be a first book if it weren't for her. As you know, if you listened, it was based on a Dungeons and Dragons game or role-playing game that she and I played together way back in 2007. This time around, I thought it would be really cool to do some character study episodes rather. And I wanted to focus on the first character that you meet, named Eithne. Her first name is Eithne. Her last name is Alfrey, which I really only use probably once in the whole book, but darn it, she has a last name, so that's what it is. She is, beautiful elf woman. She's actually the first person you meet in this crazy, crazy world. And just to give you a little bit of cultural backstory, so Eithne is a member of what is called the Arani tribe, and they are very, very loosely based on, they're an elf tribe that's very loosely based on the ancient Gaelic peoples of the British Isles, the ancient Celts or Gaelic peoples. There are some definite major differences in the culture and everything, but the way that a lot of their little traditions and things like that, it's all very based on that feeling, on that, frankly, very traditional fantasy sort of mood, the Tolkien-esque way of things, if you will. So that is her tribe, and they are all elves in the fantasy world of Rashawn that I created, which in the book To Save a World is a post-apocalyptic world. There was this huge war of the gods where the gods all killed each other off, and the world is suffering in chaos and cataclysm because there's no one to manage it. We have mountain ranges popping up overnight. You have heat waves in the middle of winter, which immediately turn back into freezing temperatures in the afternoon. And because of this terrible plight, the entire world, the crops are failing, people are dying, disease is rampant, because when you don't have normal weather patterns or, oceans swallowing boats up or ships up with whirlpools and it's a little nuts. So the world's in dire straits, and in this world you have three main races. You have elves, demons, and humans. And in my world of Rashawn, demons are not evil. They're just another race. They're just another type of people. They do have a lot of the classic, what we think of as demon traits. They're much more physically diverse than humans and elves are. But they could have horns and blue skin, or all the tails and fangs and all that other stuff. But they are just another humanoid type of race in that world. But getting back to Eithne, she is the youngest daughter of, an Arani tribe family. She has an older sister named Rosalind, who is actually very strongly based on my own older sister, who's a lovely person, and as is Rosalind in the book. And and she's got her, and then she has her mother and her father. And Ethne, basically, you've got a family of redheads. Ethne has bright red hair, as do both. And her father has bright red hair and green eyes, and Ethne has that coloring. Her mother and Rosalind have kind of more strawberry blonde with brown eyes. It's not that important. Elves in my world are generally taller than humans, so Ethne would be of average height for a female elf at around 5'9" or 5'10", which is tall for humans, but for elves that's pretty par for the course. They're just taller, and she's very lithe. She's not skinny necessarily. She has sort of a willowy frame. She doesn't have a big chest, but she does. She's got a nice shape. She's well rounded in the right places, and she's fit. She's got that long, willowy, lithe kind of frame with her long red hair, and I envision her as very pretty. Of course, that's that. If you're going to make someone up, you're probably going to imagine them as attractive in most cases, as I do with most of my characters. So she does. She's got, she's a beauty. And she does not see herself that way, though. That's one of the things about Ethne is she is very pretty, and maybe she isn't the most beautiful elven girl in the world, but she's at least on the attractive end of average, and she doesn't really feel it. And I don't really know if she cares to be, quite frankly. She's one of those girls who, it's not the most important thing to her. She does care a little. We all want to be attractive, no matter who you are or what your goals are. It's nice to feel that you look attractive in some respect to other people in general. That's just normal. That's just normal vibes. That's just what you need as a person. It doesn't matter. But she herself doesn't consider herself to be a beauty. And she is very much a reader. She loves books and reading. In fact, the very first lines of the book To Save a World, that the first thing is that her mother is calling her into the kitchen, and Ethne is reading a book. And that's what she's doing. She's a well-educated young woman, but she has a rebellious side, which comes out very, very clearly in the first chapter or two. In her tribe, in the Irani tribe, the women are not allowed to have anything to do with learning how to fight or blacksmithing. They just no weapons stuff, essentially. And women are encouraged to be educated. Women are encouraged to do pretty much everything else, but they are not encouraged to learn how to fight at all. That is definitely considered a man's dominion, and in that tribal existence, it is punishable. It is not by death. That would be extreme, but it is a punishable offense for a woman to use a sword or to create weapons or anything like that. That is just a cultural thing that I decided on because, darn it, I needed her to feel oppressed. So that is something, I needed her to have a reason to feel oppressed. I needed her to have a reason to want to break away from what was going on. So Ethne has been rebellious. And I promise this is not a huge spoiler if you haven't read the book yet. You learn this chapter 1. You learn chapter 1 that Ethne has been learning and teaching herself how to fight on her own, quite illegally. Of course, she goes to the training fields and she kind of sneaks and hides, and she watches the soldiers practice. She takes note of their techniques, and she steals a sword from the weapons chest at the training fields, and she goes into the woods or wherever is completely private, and she teaches herself how to fight. And something I don't really discuss in the book is that the more she fights, the more she learns how to do these things, the more caged she realizes she feels. She really just realizes more and more, this is something I love doing. This is a part of who I am. I'm never going to be truly liberated. I'm never going to be really free until I am able to just do this openly. I love learning this, and I can't tell anyone. I can't share it with anyone. Living this secret existence is not what I want, and I want to be able to feel like I can do whatever I want. So it's all kind of wrapping up. She loves her family. She's got a great family life. Honestly, she actually feels very, very badly about deceiving them. So it's a paradox for her. It's an emotional paradox, and that's something that really plays into her motivations. Because, and again, this is at the very beginning of the book, so it's not going to spoil the story for you. Eithne does decide to run away. And she decides to run away because she just simply can't deal with living what she perceives as a false existence. She needs to free herself, she needs to break away, and she is a very brave person. Now, she, at the beginning of the story, is very naive. She's very naive. She's only ever known life in the village. So she's not really aware of the outside world. She doesn't understand how things work out there, but she's not completely ignorant to her situation either. She understands that she's naive. She understands that she doesn't know what's out there. All of that. Which is why she decides to follow the men going out on a quest. So she figures as long as I stick closely enough to these people that I feel I trust, then I'll be safer, and then I'll get to a town, and then I can just live my life in this other town, away from the laws of my tribe, and that's the original plan for her. Obviously, it doesn't happen that way, and I won't tell you how it changes, because don't you want to read my book and find out how she gets sucked into this crazy quest? But that is her original motivation, her original plan. Eithne doesn't plan on going terribly far. She doesn't plan on having this huge life-changing quest. She's planning on changing her life, but she's planning on simply getting out of her tribal lands of the Irani, getting to a city or town, finding a place to live, and just being able to live in that free, liberated way. Because you learn later, she's actually has a lot of interest in medicinal herbs and medicines, things like that. So she does know, she has a fair bit of knowledge. Like I said, she loves reading, she is educated, so she could easily pick up a job in a town working, at an apothecary, or waiting tables at an inn, something. She could pick up an easy, quick job and be completely fine, and that's the plan. She really wasn't looking to make a splash and be world changing. One of the other things about her tribe that plays into her personality is around the time of adolescence. So for in human years, quote unquote, as I often think as a fantasy author doing my so elves live for about, I think I have them living about 400 years is the lifespan. Or is the average lifespan of an elf is 400 years in the world of Rashan. So adolescence for an elf would be around the age of 80 or 90. So when they're around 80 or 90 years old, that's when they are looking like a 12-year-old to 14-year-old human person or kid. That's their age, because they age about, I think mathematically I worked it out to be about 5 times slower than than humans do. Of course, if you're a math person, please don't check my math. This is a fantasy. Just let me have this one, okay, guys? All right, thank you. that's I don't care if I'm sure it's 4 point something something, but that's okay. It's all right. I don't need to be. I don't want to know exactly what it is. I'm not a math person. So around that age of adolescence, they get these tattoos that the elders give them. So they go to see this elder shaman in their tribe, and a spirit guide, which is any animal, is identified for that particular person. And then that spirit animal is then tattooed onto the body of that person in a place of the shaman's designation. So people of for example, another character in the book, Darian, where his last name is McAllow, by the way, Darian McAllow. Once again, I use his last name, I think, all of twice in the book, but it exists, and so there you go. But he is also a member of the Irani tribe, and he has a horse rearing on his back. I think it's his right shoulder, if I remember, but down the back of his right shoulder. So it's down almost his entire back on the right side, and and that's what he has, and that's noble, strong. That is his spirit animal. He's the captain of the guard. He is definitely a very noble, strong, honorable kind of, horse trait person. He definitely is that. And Eithne's sister Rosalind is, I don't think I mentioned this in the book, but she has a rabbit. And I think I have the rabbit is tattooed on the small of her back, like kind of up the middle, like maybe the ears are between her shoulder blades in my imagination. But yeah, and the rabbits are quick-witted, they're smart, they're kind of fun and spunky and everything, and that's but they also, they're part of a group. They like to stay close to their I don't know what rabbit groups are, but rabbits live in family groups, and I don't really know what those are called. I don't think you say a herd of rabbits or a parliament of rabbits. That's owls only, to my understanding. But family group, and Rosalind is. She likes to stay with the family, and Eithne has a very unique tattoo. Her tribal tattoo is that of a phoenix. And it's down the left side of her body. It starts just kind of beside her left breast, and then it goes all the way down to the knee on the left side of her body. So this huge phoenix tattoo. And of her tribe, as far as Eithne knows, and you, the reader, consequently, she is the only one who has ever received a magical creature as her spirit guide. And of course, the phoenix is very, very, well, I just lost what word I was going to use. It's foreshadowing for what happens to Eithne. Now, the name Eithne itself in Old Gaelic means little flame. And of course, she has red hair. I had to get literal with it. It was fun for me. So she has the red hair. She's got the phoenix tattoo. Her name means little flame. The mythical bird, the phoenix, is reborn of flame, reborn of difficult circumstance. And Eithne truly does go through a rebirth in more than one way, definitely in a spiritual, emotional way throughout the course of the book. And you'll find out another way toward the end as well. She really, the phoenix really, really was it is who she is. She is a phoenix, and she becomes reborn of those difficult, hard, heated flames, and it's just foreshadowing for some of the trials that her character will go through, that she has this beautiful tattoo, but it also shows you that she's different because she is the only one with a magical creature tattoo. Now, she is a little different in the written book than when we were playing in the game. In the game, she was more, I played her more carefree. She had less heavy thoughts, but when you're playing a character in a role-playing game, if any of you play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, any of those, if you play, there are a few dozen kind of role-playing systems that you can use, and my friend and I don't use any of them. We take elements from all of them, and we sort of made up our own way of playing that suits us very, very well, and we do that. So we don't. I say Dungeons and Dragons just for the sake of simplicity, so you know what I'm talking about. But it's not that actual system. It's something that we created and evolved on our own. But that particular one, when you're playing, you sort of are going through the motions a lot of ways. You're playing your character, you're doing things, but it's almost a next quest sort of thing. There is character development, but you're focused on finding the bad guys, getting your quest done, getting your experience, leveling up. So it's a little less character driven when you're in the middle of a game. And so Eithne, while I was playing her in the game, was much more lighthearted, especially at the beginning. She didn't have as much of the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders as some other people would feel. And in the book, of course, I had to make sure to recognize what she would actually be going through as a person. This young woman who has always felt like a bird in a gilded cage, who has so much knowledge and so much will for freedom from what she views as a constrained life, but at the same time she has the paradox of really loving her family, knowing that she is treated well, knowing that she lives in a sheltered existence, but she just can't do it anymore. And so we get into a lot more of that with her in the book than when I was playing her as a character. And I have to say, I really enjoyed writing out her thoughts and her feelings or in her emotional strife. I definitely added her lighthearted side as well. She's definitely very feisty. She has this kind of feisty side to her, and she's clever. She kind of not tricks. She outwits is more, because it's not a trick. Darian is very well aware of what she is doing the entire time because he's smart too. But she does outwit him in a couple of instances where she just says, hey, well, if you want XYZ, then this is what you need to do, and boom, I get my way. And he has to, he concedes because he's thinking, she talked me into a corner. She's very smart. She's a clever person. And that is something else that in the book I was able to highlight her intelligence more. In the game, of course, I used it, but I was able to highlight her intelligence much more so than before. And she grows a lot. Eithne is very naive in the beginning, but as she grows in this, she becomes an adult. She starts out as a young woman, early 20s. You would say that she's roughly 23-ish, around 23 or 22 years old. But when she gets out into the world, she realizes what she's done, not only to herself, but to the people that she cares about, which she does leave them letters, things like that, but she she understands the weight of her own responsibilities much more so, and being burdened with the quest that she gets burdened with, she understands very, very literally the weight of the world and the responsibility of having to think, all right, well, I started out with a selfish motivation. She honestly did, a selfish motivation of wanting to be free, and that is not wrong in any way. We all want to feel free. We all want to feel liberated, but it is a selfish desire in a lot of ways, and I don't mean that negatively. I simply mean that matter-of-factly. She certainly deserves it, but she then has to realize, as she grows up very quickly and understands where things are going in the story, she has to understand that, okay, well, maybe what I want isn't the most important thing here. Maybe my actions cannot simply reflect my needs, because all of a sudden she is responsible for so much more than herself. And it's not a luxurious place to be emotionally, but she does make the hard decision, as do the other characters, to choose the good of the whole over her own personal needs, because if she were to be catering to herself, she would literally doom the world, as would the other characters. And so they all have to make that choice to say, well, we have to sacrifice what we want in order to save everyone. And that is something that they do, and Eithne has to grow up and learn that really, really hard lesson. And she, does get rewarded in the end. I make sure they have a happy ending, I promise. I'm not that mean to my characters. I put them through a lot of trauma, but then I'm nice. So this is one of the reasons we love her. Or at least I hope you love her. A lot of people tell me that Eithne's their favorite character, which brings me a lot of joy. And so Eithne is very lovable in that sense. She's highly relatable, because even if we are no longer going through that phase in our lives, or maybe we're not quite there yet, but I think for me and for a lot of people, when we are in that early 20s phase where we are legally adults, but we're not really adults yet, as you know, I'm 39 now, just to give you an FYI is where I am at in life. And I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was living in an apartment, I was going to college, all that kind of thing. That was really exciting. And I liked to think of myself as a full-fledged adult. But looking back, I wasn't. I was taking care of myself. I was working. I was going to school full-time. I was paying my rent. But I wasn't really an adult yet. I was still figuring my life out. And even though I've always been very confident and self-possessed of who I am, I was still trying to figure out how I fit into the scheme of the rest of the world. And I think everyone goes through that phase of their life at one point or another, some earlier, some later, many in their early 20s, like Eithne and myself. And that's where she starts. She starts at this place of, she does have an understanding of herself, but she doesn't have, she just doesn't have a whole, she doesn't have it all figured out. Sorry about the ding notifications. I'm trying to turn that off. Anyway, I'll try and cut that. I'll try and cut the stupid texting dings coming through on my Mac. And that was distracting me. I apologize. But yeah, so we love Eithne because she's relatable and she's genuinely a nice person. She wants to help. She really does care a lot. She checks in on the other characters. She wants to make sure everyone's happy. She wants to make sure they're comfortable. She has a lot of those positive maternal impulses that are just there. She's just naturally that way. She's naturally kind, friendly, and frankly, we love her because she's smart. She's clever and she's caring, and that's cool. And we probably love her a little bit for her feistiness too, but I know a lot of people, if you're going to choose some negative traits with Eithne, she is naive. And she's kind of got a temper. She's feisty in a cute way sometimes, but she gets a little heated too easily. Sometimes she jumps to some conclusions. She gets into a verbal fight with Darian especially, and sometimes he just has to put her in her place because she is overreacting. So this is why we maybe don't love Eithne so much, but this also is what makes her a real person. She's not perfect. Yes, she's overall a wonderful person that you'd want to spend time with, but she's flawed like everyone and everything. We all have our flaws, and that is something that I love putting into my characters. I love giving them flaws because it makes them real. If you have a character who's too perfect or too imperfect, if they have nothing but flaws, or if they have nothing but goodness, it's boring. Sorry, it's boring. You don't want to read about it, and nobody can relate to that because no one is all good or all bad. We're, obviously we'll have our leanings if you're talking about alignment, but everyone has negative traits. Everyone has positive traits, and you hope that your positive traits outweigh your negative traits, but they're there. And we have to learn how to do that. So that's so I mean she's argumentative. And she'll get feisty about it. She gets really sassy with you in it, and she'll pick a fight. And Darian does learn because again, he is the one that she's usually picking a fight with because he is the one she's most comfortable with. Isn't that the way that he gets the wrath because she feels most comfortable with him and most comfortable knowing that he won't leave her. So because he's very up, he's promised to protect and make sure everything's okay. So he she knows he's not going anywhere, so she lashes out most at him. And isn't that always the way? Though he does learn how to diffuse her very quickly, and it works. And I guess that's just Eithne in a nutshell. It's a little convoluted, roundabout way of talking about it, but that's who she is. And if you have any other character questions about her, please let me know. In the sequel, Eithne is back. Of course, she is a main character, and she has a whole new state of growth and learning that she goes through, and it is really cool. I think she's in a new phase of life in the sequel. All of the characters are in a new phase of life. If you follow my Instagram, you know that she has a daughter at the beginning of the sequel, which is not a spoiler because the sequel, literally the very first line of the book is spoken by Eithne's daughter. So she's a little girl, and she's, they're playing a game of like tag or, just like a little chase and back and forth game. And so that's no big deal there, I promise. but then you get to know Eithne in the sequel, which will be out later this year. I am in the editing phase of it now and will be self-publishing in a few months. But you get to know her as a mother, and you get to understand and see how she grows through the new way I choose to traumatize my characters. Because that's what we do as writers. We simply create these wonderful characters who don't deserve it at all, and then we traumatize them into oblivion. And sorry. We feel badly about it, I promise. We do, even though they're just pretend. They're our babies. They're our brain babies. We made them, and then we bash them, and it's very I don't know if it's self-sadistic, but it's a special place, and authors, us writers and authors, we have special brains. We commiserate often about it. If you ever catch up with us on social media, you'll see many memes that are, in my opinion, hilarious. But we love our fantasy worlds, and we wouldn't trade our craziness for anything, because it is what allows us to create the madness that turns into these stories. If you have any questions or anything for me, please reach out to me. My website is hollisjoemccullumauthor.com. All of my social media links are there, but you can also catch me on Instagram at hollisjoemccullum. I make it easy. My YouTube channel is Hollis Joe McCullum, author, which you might be listening to this podcast on said YouTube channel. Who knows? And then, let me see what else. I'm really just on Instagram, you guys. I do have a Facebook that I never check. I will be totally honest with you about that. I never check it. I don't. All of my author posts on Facebook are simply auto-populated from Instagram. If I check it, it might be once every 6 months. So, yeah. And you can email me directly from my website if you would like to, the hollisjoemccullumauthor.com, if you would like to do that. And also all of the links to purchase my books. So To Save a World, available on Amazon, that is on the website, and you can also look it up. It's easier to find if you look it up by my name. Please leave me comments, send me messages. And also this you might be listening to this on Spotify, and the Spotify channel is I Do What I Want, and I am I'm the person. Hollis Joe McCullum, once again, that is my name. And that's how you can find me. So thank you so much for listening, you guys. And